Good evening and welcome to the incoming ninth grade parent orientation. We're excited for you to be with us this evening or watching later on via the recording. I want to start the evening by reminding you that we do have a Google form available to ask questions. You can type in your question to submit during the presentation or during the Q&A session at the end. I'd like to start off by introducing everybody with us this evening. We have our principal, Mr. Kyle Hosier. We have our assistant principal, Miss Mary Rose Joseph, and Miss Sharon Flynn. We also have all of our department chairs joining us and they'll speak to you about their departments and their course offerings this evening. We have Mr. DeVito from the English department, Miss Robinson Chen from the Fine and Performing Arts, Miss Golub from Math, Mr. Shuckett, Social Studies, Miss Bayless from Science, Mr. Hansenbrook from World Language. And we also have our three school psychologists with us. We have Dr. Michelle Greenwald, Ms. Kelly Murphy, and Dr. Mitch Shapiro. Also, of course, I have my colleague, Junko Matano, who's going to get us started this evening.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. So I'd like to start, good evening, my name is Junko Matano. I work with the 7th, 8th, 9th graders with Ms. Moore, and I'd like to start to talk to you about the course selection process. All the counselors are really excited to start this process. It seems really early, but Edgemont's getting ready for the new school year. Week of January 22nd, counselors will visit during social studies class to present graduation requirements, course offerings, schedules, and the course selection process. And all the information that we share with you tonight, the counselors will talk to your students about. The week of January 29th, students should explore the course catalog, which will be up on the Edgemont High School website next week, and discuss options with their families and teachers. An email will also be sent out from the counseling department with a list of the course catalog, art department information, and the course selection process. And the week of the February 5th, counselors will meet individually with students during their English classes for final course selections. This is a good time for your children to ask questions, and the counselors will definitely help your children make best choices for next year. And the end of February, course requests will be posted to the parent portal for final review. So please make sure you will receive an email from Edgemont. Please make sure that you go to the parent portal and check what your student finalized in terms of signing up for courses for next year. Details will be posted on the counseling department website also. And if we can go to the next slide. So your children are starting senior high school from 9th grade. So I'd like to share the graduation requirements with you. First, students will receive 1 credit when they complete and pass a full year course. When students complete a semester-long class, they will earn half a credit. English 4 credits, which means a student will be taking 4 years of English in high school. Social studies 4 credits, math 3 credits, science 3 credits, world language 1 credit. For world language, New York State only requires a minimum of 1 credit for graduation. However, when a student is finding success in their world language class, they're encouraged to take a minimum of 2 years. Many students end up continuing to take their world language class every year throughout high school. Health, 0.5 credit, half a credit, which means taking health for half a year, 1 semester. Art and music, 1 credit, band and or chorus or strings. Many students really enjoy band, chorus, strings, or art and end up continuing for much more than a year. Elective 3.5 credits means that electives will usually be fulfilled by students taking the 4th year of math or science classes. Anything that students take beyond the required minimum credits is counted as the extra 3.5 credits. And the counselors will work with the students to make sure that this requirement is met. And physical education, 2 years in total. So the total minimum credit for graduation is 22 credits. Now, students will take Regents exams. at the end of each year, not all at once. And Regents exams are not made by Edgemont High School teachers. These are New York State exams, so the dates are set every year. So for English, students will take it at the end of junior year, global history and geography at the end of 10th grade, Algebra 1, 8th or 9th grade, one Regents exam in any science when they complete a course, and US history and government in 11th grade. And Ms. Moore is going to talk about course offerings.
Yes. Hi. Sorry, I was on mute. I'm going to talk to you now about what the schedule will look like in 9th grade. So the schedule model itself is the same as your child had this year and last year. So there are 8 courses in total and lunch that are available. As we know from your child from this year, students have 6 courses in the school day with the rotating schedule. So all students will take science. Ms. Bayless will speak about their science options going into 9th grade. They do have some choice, and you'll hear through the evening that students have more choice as the year goes on, which is very exciting. And I know it's something they look forward to as they figure out their passions. So science is one of those choices. So their science class, in addition to their science class, twice in an 8-day cycle, they'll have a second period of science where they perform their labs that are required as part of the experience curriculum and required for their Regents exam that they'll take at the end of 9th grade. 3 days in that 8-day cycle, they'll have PE. That's true all through high school. And they have a free period. And so that replaces what they now have, which is many students have a study hall. The difference being they're not required to go to an assigned classroom. Rather, we feel they're responsible enough to make a choice whether they want to go to the library, maybe meet with their counselor, sit in a quiet space to do work. So that's once per cycle. Students will have their social studies class. That'll be a global studies class, and Mr. Schuckert will speak about that. They'll have their math class, so they'll move on to the next level math from what they're currently in. They'll have English. They'll have their world language class. And then there's 2 other flexible periods in the day. Students that have resource room or ENL might have one or both of those periods designated for those supports. And then students have options for electives. So we have a lot of different elective offerings, which I'm going to talk about in the next slide. These are ways for your child to explore their various interests and or just try something new. So I'm going to shift on to that. So we have both full and half-year course electives. Our courses that you'll learn from the department chair, some of our electives rotate, so they're offered every other year, alternating with another one. And that's to ensure students have the most flexibility in being able to get that first choice that they're looking for. We do ask students, and when we go to speak to students next week, we will let them know. We do ask students to give us alternate choices. So students are allowed to take 1 full year course or up to 2 half-year courses. They can choose to take a second elective if it fits in their schedule, if they don't have other services. They can take a second elective in the area of fine and performing arts only. So again, we're going to ask for alternates. So we do our very best to get them their first choice, but as you can imagine, it's a bit of a puzzle piece. So we do ask for backup so that we know if a student didn't get their first choice, we know what to try to work in their schedule next. So for our full year course offerings, we have our studio art classes, which Ms. Robinson Chen will speak about, and our music courses, band, chorus, and orchestra. Students also can choose to take a second world language. Some of our students love and are passionate about world languages and want to try a second language in addition to the one they're taking. We also offer semester-long courses. For next year, your students' offerings will be creative writing, current international issues, first aid, CPR, and AED. Health class, which again is required for graduation. So we're going to encourage students to do so in 9th grade, if not 10th. Introduction to computer science, introduction to engineering, nutrition, psychology, speech, and world mythology. So again, we will speak to the students. We'll encourage them to look through the course catalog, which will go into detail with each one of these courses and what they'll be studying and what the work requirements will be. They can certainly, in their individual meetings with their counselors, also ask those questions. But we do hope they start exploring and thinking about who they are as a student and a learner and what they're most interested in when picking their courses. Another thing we encourage is that they focus on themselves and what they like and not just what their friends might be doing. We know there's that temptation to do so, but as they get older, we really are encouraging them to have their own voice. The other thing we always emphasize is making sure they have a balance. So another option here is for a student to have a free. And so some students know that they might have really busy extracurricular activities, sports, other commitments outside of school, and that it might be really valuable for them to have a free period. So a student can have the option to have a full year course or 2 semester long courses and have a free period in their day. So that is another option that is available to them. In terms of credits, they still have more than enough credits in terms of what's needed towards graduation. I'm now going to turn it over to our Fine and Performing Arts Chair, Ms. Robinson Chen, who will speak to you about their offerings in her department.
Good evening, everyone. Somebody on the chat, can you just let me know that you can hear me? I was having some technical issues. Great,
Yes.
Thank you. All right, most of you know me as Ms. Robinson Chen. I am the K-12 Fine and Performing Arts teacher leader, and I teach orchestra 7 through 12. I'm going to walk you through the different offerings for both the fine arts and performing arts. As Ms. Moore mentioned earlier, we do have 3 studio level classes, which are just what most 9th graders will take if they decide to choose a fine arts elective. Our art program really follows a 3-tiered system, and the studio level classes are the first tier in that. That prepares you for the upper level electives that you can choose from in 10th through 12th grade. Studio in 2D introduces students to the language of art using a variety of mediums and techniques. Fundamentals in painting and drawing, as well as skills acquired in previous years, are expanded, while new techniques in printmaking, collage, calligraphy, and other 2-dimensional arts are explored. Studio in 3D provides a hand-on aesthetic experience through a multitude of 3-dimensional mediums. Ceramics, jewelry, sculpture, bookbinding, and multicultural crafts that connect to the global curriculum offer a comprehensive and meaningful foundation course to inspire further study. STEAM Studio introduces students to a wide variety of entry-level experiences in technology-based art production. Science and technology principles function as a conduit for creativity. Students are exposed to principles of photography, advertising and design, filmmaking, and additional STEAM-based content. I highly recommend that you talk with your art teachers about the different offerings that are available in 9th grade to help guide your interests and your passions for which of the studio courses you may be interested in taking. After 9th grade, we get to the upper level electives, which I'll just briefly go over. These are all outlined in the course catalog. But for 10th through 12th grade, any upper level electives, you must take one of the studio level courses first. So as I mentioned, most students take them in 9th grade, but the studio level courses are open to all students in all grades, 9 through 12. So full year electives, drawing and painting, photography, and just drawing and painting and photography. There are also some half-year courses, which alternate pending on the year. The half-year fine art electives are digital photography, animation, jewelry design, advertising and design, and film appreciation. Next year, while you are in 9th grade, jewelry design and film appreciation are being offered. And the following year, which will be the first year that any of you are eligible for these classes, it will be animation and advertising and design, which are running this year. The 3rd tier of the fine arts program is AP Art. That's really the capstone for being able to exhibit all the skills that you've acquired through your many years of study of the fine arts. Prerequisites for AP Studio Art are any studio course plus a selection of any of the other electives that I've already gone over. And the purpose of that is that you really build a strong foundation to be able to submit your portfolio to the AP College Board. 24 pieces of art are selected for the AP Capstone project. 12 of them display a variety of mediums, and 12 are focused on a concentrated idea or a singular theme. The full course descriptions are available to you in the curriculum bulletin. Also, you'll notice that on this slide, there is a QR code that will take you directly to the Fine Arts website, where you can read more about each of the courses offered, as well as see some student artwork. It is also linked here underneath the title of this slide. If we could go to the next slide, please. So performing arts Not much changes between junior high ensembles and senior high ensembles, except that they meet every day or every day that that course meets. So currently that's 6 days per cycle. All ensembles are offered during the same period, so students who wish to participate in multiple ensembles have the ability to do that without taking up more than one course in their schedule. So if you want to be in chorus and in band, great. If you want to be in orchestra and chorus, great. If you want to be in all three, fantastic. We encourage that, and that's why the schedule is structured that way. Similarly to junior high ensembles, satisfactory participation in the course requires attendance at the concerts, which plug for next week. We do have the junior high concert on Wednesday next week, the 24th. And another stipulation, this comes directly from our governing body, which is called NISMA, is that students who wish to participate in all county, area, all state, or audition for those extracurricular state-run ensembles must be involved in their school program in order to audition for those groups and be selected. Similarly, any of the extracurricular performing ensembles that we offer, like jazz band, vocal jazz, you must be involved in the curricular course, enrolled in the curricular course in order to audition for those ensembles. AP Music Theory is the capstone level of the performing arts. And while we do highly recommend that students who enroll in AP Theory have some background with reading music, either playing an instrument or singing, it's not mandatory, but you will have an easier time with that. Next year, it will be offered, and then after next year, we're going to alternate every other year with offering AP Music Theory. Final takeaway before we move on to the next person. Fine and performing arts really are a vital part of your education. College selection boards really are interested in seeing a very well-rounded student who has pursued multiple years of whatever they're passionate in. So whether it's music, art, a mix of the two, it really does a nice job to round out your student experience. So continue to be involved in our programs. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact us. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. DeVito?
Hi, everyone. I'm happy to be here tonight to share with you the trajectory of our high school English program. We start, of course, in English 9, and as you can see from our chart, 9, like English 7 and 8, is a heterogeneous grouping, which means there's no honors available. Students are placed more or less randomly in their 9th grade class. In English 9, we begin to focus on some of the sort of high school skills, analytical writing, text explication, of course, also the joy of reading, the joy of intellectual pursuits with text and discussion in class. Following English 9, following 9th grade, choice is the prevailing philosophy in the English department. Students will, for the rest of their time in high school, have a lot of options going into their upper level English years. First, if a student is interested in pursuing an honors track in English 10, that will start really happening, early in the 9th grade year. That student should let his or her teacher know that that's an interest of theirs. In January of their 9th grade year, usually the first week back from the Christmas break, there'll be a departmental honors qualifying essay, which all students who are interested in taking 10 honors have to sit for. The essay is then evaluated by the department, and that essay performance combined with teacher recommendation determines whether or not a student is admitted into the honors class in 10th grade. If he's not or she's not, there's certainly still very rich courses available. English 10 is the it's world and it's called Global and American Literature. It's a little bit of a redundant title because I think America's on the globe, last I checked, but it is meant and designed to read texts that line up with the 10th grade social studies curriculum. And if a student is interested in really pursuing that alignment in a much deeper way, there's a course called Global Perspectives, which is team taught by an English teacher and a social studies teacher. And it's a double period class, and it satisfies both the social studies and the English requirement. And the social studies and the English teacher work together to let the social studies curriculum shine light on the English curriculum and vice versa. And it's been a popular and successful class. From 10th grade, the choice model continues. Students can again elect, if they haven't gotten into the honors level, to take the departmental essay again and try to get into the 11 honors class. Again, with that performance and teacher recommendation, they are either admitted to that honors class or not. If they are not, they have several choices. One of them, well, I mean, one choice is the regular 11-12 year, which involves a menu of 4 courses each year, each of them half year. And students will rank their choices 1 to 4 and hopefully get their first and second choice. And they would take one class the first semester and the other the second semester. The courses are organized. They're literature courses, but they're organized around a theme. This year we're offering, for example, dramatic literature, war and conflict. The other 2 are escaping me, sorry, immigration literature, and satire. And then the following year, there'll be another 4, next year there'll be a different 4 available and so forth. They alternate back and forth. The other choice that students have coming out of English 10 or Global Perspectives or 10H is to apply for Phaedrus, which is our alternative school. And students who are admitted to Phaedrus take English and social studies in an alternative setting. Going into 12th grade, the choices are the same. Students will have another 4 courses from which to choose, and they'll get 2 of those. Or again, if they are interested in pursuing the honors track, they can take the essay in January. It'll be evaluated by the department, and then that, with teacher recommendation from their 11th grade class, will either admit them to English 12H or not. And if they're not, again, they'll go back into what we call the selectives, that menu of 4 courses. The electives in English are creative writing and speech, both of which are available for all 4 grades. And with that, I will pass it along to Ms. Golub, who's our math chair.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to go through the options at high school. As many of you may know, your child is part of the first cohort to have had the option to accelerate their studies in mathematics in 8th grade, and we've been really excited about rolling that out. And we hear it's going really well. We hope it is on your end too. So I'm going to go through the different options, but it's mostly dependent on what course they took this year. So students who were in Math 8 with lab will, if we deem necessary, will be continued to be offered that lab support in an Algebra 1 with lab, and they will take the Regents at the end of that year. Students who were in Math 8 will take Algebra 1 and similarly, will take the Regents at the end of that year. Back at that. Students who were in either Accelerated Algebra 1 or Honors Algebra 1 will take some form of geometry, either geometry or honors geometry, based on their performance this year. By taking geometry in 9th grade, it will allow those children to progress to calculus by senior year. Students will not be required to take a geometry Regents unless for some reason they have not completed and or passed their Algebra 1 Regents. So after the end of that class, they will take a school-based final. Following geometry, and students, who take algebra in 9th grade will just be kind of 1 year behind, so they'll take the geometry courses in 10th grade and so forth. So following geometry, students take Algebra 2 and then pre-calc, and if accelerated, they will take calculus, some level. We also have some elective courses offered in mathematics. The first was mentioned earlier, that's Intro to Computer Science. That's a half-year course. Students can begin taking that course in 9th grade and can take it any year they are in high school. Following that course, they can take AP Computer Science Principles any year 10th through 12th. There are a variety of prereqs for that class. Intro to Computer Science can be a prereq, but does not have to be. So you can take AP Computer Science Principles even if you have not taken the Intro to Computer Science class based on their performance in algebra. We also offer AP Computer Science A in grades 11 and 12 and AP Statistics in grades 11 to 12. Thank you. And I'd like to pass this on to Ms. Bayless.
Thank you. As mentioned earlier, the state does require 3 years of science. However, most students will end up taking 4. As freshmen, what you can see is that they have the option of either taking earth science or biology. Most of the students will take biology, though some do take earth science. Regardless of which class they take as a freshman, that is the Regents course that they will be taking. So that's where they'll satisfy the requirement for their Regents exam. Moving on then to 10th grade, students can still have the option of taking either earth science or biology, depending on what they took as a 9th grader. Most of our students will move on to take chemistry. For chemistry, we offer either a regular general chemistry course or an honors class. And entrance into honors chemistry is based on performance for the class the year before, looking at their bio as a freshman or a 10th grader, depending on when they moved into that. Moving into 11th grade, that's where we start to see a lot more options for the students. So again, depending on what they've taken, they still have the option of doing the earth science, the biology, or the chemistry. We also have an introductory physics class that is available to them. And this is now where the APs open up for the students. So you can see we have an array of different AP classes. The requirements to get into any of the AP courses is maintaining an average of B in science in 9th and 10th grade. The other thing offered starting in 11th grade are the electives. If the students choose to take an elective as an 11th grader, it's their secondary science, so they should have a core science that they're adding on to that. The courses are all half year, and they do alternate as well. So it's between forensics and astronomy and anatomy, neuroscience, and they do vary year to year. In 12th grade, students have the opportunity to take any class, even an elective, as their primary science. The last science offering that we do have is Science Scholars. This is our research course that the students take in addition to their regular class. If they decide to join the program, they will start that in 10th grade, and it continues through the first semester of senior year. And more information about Science Scholars will be provided to the students at some point during their 9th grade career. So thank you. And next we'll hear from Dan Schuchat about the social studies program.
Thank you, Ms. Bayless. Social studies is fairly straightforward. In 9th grade, everybody takes Global Studies 1. And then in 10th grade, there are some options. Global Studies 2 is the second course in a 2-year course with Global 1. Like Mr. DeVito said, if you enjoy English and social studies, you might want to take Global Perspectives in 10th grade. And as he said, that's become a very popular class for a lot of our 10th graders. And the other option in 10th grade is taking AP European History. All those classes are full year courses in 10th grade. 11th grade, you can take either Regents level American history or AP US history. And 12th grade, everyone needs to take 2 half-year classes. New York State requires that everyone takes law and government and economics. And we have 2 levels. We have the regular level, and we have the College Board AP level, macroeconomics, and AP US government and politics. As I said, the regular level and the AP levels are both half-year classes, 1 semester classes. And for the AP classes, they cover a great deal of material in a very short time, particularly the second semester for seniors, which is a shorter semester. So that's something to tuck away. You can think of it closer when you get to senior year, but those classes run very, very quickly through the curriculum. Like my colleagues, social studies also has some electives that it offers. And these are classes that students take on top of their full year or half year social studies requirements. We offer current international issues, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's really a current events class that handles things that are happening around the world and at home. A history of New York class, psychology, and AP psychology. AP psychology is a full year class. The other classes are semester-long classes. And current international issues and history of New York are going to be offered every other year. So we'll run one. This year we're running New York City. Next year we'll offer current international issues and then change it up the following year. That's it. If you have any questions, I'll be around at the end. And I'd like to hand it over to my colleague in world languages, Jonathan Hansenbrook.
Mr. Hansenbrook, I think you're muted.
I know Jonathan was having some
Yeah.
technical difficulties. So I will take over his slides for now, and hopefully he'll be back on. So I will channel Mr. Hansenbrook for a moment. So we offer 3 languages: Spanish, Latin, and French. Your students typically continue in the language that they started in 7th and 8th grade. They do have the option to change languages if they'd like. If they do so, they would start with level 1A. If not, if they're looking to continue in their language, they would move on to the next level. Most students this year are in level 1B, in which case they would move on to level 2 as a 9th grader. And then, as you'll see with Latin and French, they'd move on to 3 honors. In Spanish, we offer both regular level 3 and an honors level Spanish. The same is true for level 4 and level 5. As I mentioned earlier, some students really love language and want the opportunity to learn an additional language. And so they can either choose to switch languages, or as their elective, they can choose to take an additional world language in addition to what they're currently taking. The World Language Department also offers 2 elective courses. Like many of the other subjects, they'll rotate from year to year, so that we have World Mythology and Greek and Latin Roots of English. So next year, students will have the opportunity to take World Mythology, and the following year, students will have the opportunity to take Greek and Latin Roots of English. They're both newer courses, and kids have really enjoyed taking them. I am now going to pass it off to Dr. Shapiro, who's going to talk about peer advocacy.
Thanks, Ms. Moore. So as you know, your 8th graders have been enrolled or will be enrolled next term in a curricular program called Teen Talk. That program is facilitated by my colleagues, Dr. Greenwald and Ms. Murphy, and Dr. Greenwald is present at this meeting tonight. Even though Teen Talk concludes at the end of this school year, Ms. Murphy, Dr. Greenwald, and I continue to be available to your children in high school to help them manage any social and emotional concerns that may come up for them. And as you may remember from our meeting 2 years ago, my colleagues' offices are in the counseling suite along with Ms. Moore, Ms. Matano, and the other high school counselors. And my office is in the A building next to A3. Tonight, I want to talk to you briefly about a high school extracurricular program called Peer Advocacy. It's an extracurricular extension of the Teen Talk that I coordinate from my office. Peer, as the students refer to it, is a little bit tough to describe, but I think the best way to think of it is as an ongoing conversation, or more accurately, a series of conversations. These conversations take place 1 lunch period every cycle between grade level peers, 2 older peer leaders, those are 10th, 11th, or 12th graders, and myself. Participation is optional, but it's a popular program, especially for incoming high school students who generally find it helpful, and that's the reason I'm highlighting it here. These conversations cover a variety of topics, including managing stress related to academic and social expectations, determining the difference between healthy and unhealthy relationships, learning to communicate effectively with peers, teachers, and parents, social media navigation, managing time, finding balance between school, friends, family, and extracurriculars, and onwards from there. Students sign up to be part of a peer group via a Google form, and are randomly assigned to one of our groups. In the coming months, I'll be starting the application process for 9th and 10th graders to apply to become peer leaders, the students who co-lead the groups. And rather than tell you more about the potential impact of the program myself, I thought I'd read you a few testimonials from last year's applications to give you a sense of what some of the students who enjoy peer think about it. One student said, "One of my favorite parts of peer is when the group discussion unpredictably follows something someone brought up where we share what's on our minds. These little moments where everyone is pitching in thoughts without any self-consciousness are always the best part for me. Separate from that, I also like when the discussion becomes deeper. Then I had a soccer game this weekend, and it becomes more of this is going on right now for me. And we discuss how we really feel about things and real solutions are put out there." Another student said, "One of my favorite peer moments occurred only a few weeks ago when we were talking about courses for next year. We discussed the Honors English Placement Exam and other things related to 10th grade course selections. These are topics I wasn't very comfortable talking about with friends because it can be a weird conversation to have. But when we talked about it as a peer group, it wasn't weird at all. And it was actually really nice to hear different perspectives. I also liked hearing the thoughts of my peer leaders since they had already been through it. I had been avoiding thinking about the topic, so it was good to share some of my own thoughts about what I was nervous about and what I was excited for." Finally, another student said, "What I like about peer is that we don't say names, and whatever is said in Dr. Mitch's office stays there. I think that peer offers a sense of privacy to students. It's an opportunity for kids that aren't necessarily friends outside of the group to really get to know each other. And that's a pretty unique thing, especially in a small high school." Again, there's no application process for peer. It's open to everyone in high school, but they must sign up. Shortly after the school year begins next year, I'll be sending out a Google form for students to register to be assigned to a peer group. I'll also ask Mr. Hosier to feature that Google form and a blurb about it in one of his weekly communications to you so that you can encourage your 9th graders to sign up. Those students who have never done peer can be reluctant. Encouraging them to try it for 3 or 4 meetings is a reasonable amount of time for them to make an informed decision about whether or not they want to keep coming. Thanks for your time tonight. And with that, I'll turn it back to Ms. Moore so that she can facilitate a Q&A regarding everything you've heard tonight.
Great, thank you so much. So without further ado, we're going to turn it over to Q&A. So I'm going to stop sharing for now. So everybody can be seen. I'm going to read the questions aloud, and then if it pertains, whoever pertains best to will answer the question. Again, you can still submit questions now, so just go to the Google form if you have any questions. If you are joining us later, and you're watching this in the days to come, and you have any questions that weren't answered following this presentation, please feel free to reach out to your child's counselor, the department chair, psychologist, or administrator based on your question. All right, great. So the first question is, what happens if a 9th grader wants to take 2 electives? So for example, maybe a music and intro to engineering, and the time slots conflict. Do they need to choose one?
I can answer that.
Right.
So yes, students can try to take orchestra, both orchestra and, for example, intro to engineering. Students are allowed to take one fine arts music elective with an academic elective. And I think this question is asking about what happens, unfortunately, when there is a conflict, when after the master schedule comes out. That is why when we meet with the students, we do ask for students to make first choice, second choices of their electives. And some students, really sometimes give us their third choice too. So if there are conflicts, we do move on to the student's second choice elective, and we're always available to discuss this with our students to help them make the best choices.
Great, thank you. The next question is related to math. The kind of 2 questions, Rachel. One is, will their Algebra 1 grade be on their high school transcript? And will it be included in their GPA? And then the second question was, what is the math curriculum after geometry in 9th grade? I believe that was on the flow chart. This might have been asked prior to that, but Ms. Golub, if you want to.
Well, I mean, I believe you can answer the questions about the transcript and the grades. I believe it will be, right?
They will be on yes, they will be on the transcript. And I know that was shared back when the changes were made for math. So if your child is in algebra or algebra honors as an 8th grader, that will be on their high school transcript. That is a high school course with the grade, and it will be calculated into their GPA.
As far as what happens after geometry, assuming your child is taking geometry in 9th grade, they will take Algebra 2 in 10th grade, either regular or honors. Same thing with pre-calc, either regular or honors. And then right now we have 2 levels of calculus. As you know, again, I'll say it again, your child is the first cohort. So right now we have AP Calculus AB for senior year and AP Calculus BC. We're going to continue to evaluate the success of this program and see if a non-AP level of calculus will be necessary once we get there.
Great, thank you. The next question is, can the physical education requirements be fulfilled by participating in varsity sports? I can answer that. So in 9th grade, all students need to take PE, even if they are in a varsity level sport. Currently, the protocol is if a student is in 10th grade or higher in a varsity sport this season in which they play the sport, they are not required to go to PE class. It does, however, remain on their schedule, and they do need to return to PE at the end of their season. That's true even if they play multiple seasons. They got any lapse in between, they are required to go back to PE class. If there's any changes, that will be shared through our athletic director. But that is the current practice. The next question is, why does a student need to take a studio art level course before taking the 10 through 12 electives? The concern is, does this close the door for somebody that maybe wants to take film appreciation? Does studio art prepare them?
Sure. So the studio courses, if photography is really something that you're thinking about, then STEAM Studio does address many of the principles from an introduction standpoint that you'll need to get into deeper in the 10th through 12th grade elective. So that's why those are put in place the way that they are. Certainly, feel free to reach out to the art instructors because they can give you much more detailed information with the rationale behind the studio level courses and which one would best prepare you based on your interests for the 10 through 12 electives.
Great, thank you. The next question is clarification as to the math track for a student that's in math with lab. They were curious to know how that track worked.
Sure. So if it was deemed that they would benefit from the lab support in 7 and or 8, again, we always are continually evaluating this. There is a lab period offered to 9th grade students to help them best prepare for that Algebra 1 Regents. After that, there is no additional period, but we do have a topics in geometry class, which will cover all of the same topics as geometry, except without the heavy emphasis on proof. That is typically in our geometry and honors geometry courses. And then again, reevaluating every year, but the Algebra 2 curriculum can be separated into a 2-year course, Algebra 2A and Algebra 2B, covering the same content, moving at a slower pace.
Spreading the wealth this evening. The next question is English related. And the question is, why do we not offer an AP English class?
We offer an Honors 12 seminar. The AP course, which was fairly onerous in its requirements, was not vastly different than what we would offer in an English 12 seminar, because the AP English the test is a skill-based test. It's not a content-based test. We invite students to take the AP test. They are welcome to do that. We will give it to them through our regular channels in our school. And sometimes I know students have elected to take that at the end of 11th grade honors, which is perfectly fine because, as I said, it's a skill-based test. There's not a certain level of content that needs to be addressed. So students are certainly welcome to take the AP test, but there's nothing different about the AP level course from our English 12 seminar. And so rather than sort of jump through the College Board hoops every year, when we're not really deriving a great benefit from that, we elected many years ago to stop.
Great, thank you. The next question is science. What materials are included in earth science?
Sorry about that. So the earth science class, it really looks at obviously the planet Earth. It talks a lot about geometry, and it also brings into weather, and it's starting to expand more into Earth and space. So I think it's going to be looking at planetary motion and stuff like that as well, a little bit more astronomy, because the Regents is changing a little bit. More information on that, if you wanted to, could be gotten from the course bulletin or by speaking to Miss McDougall, who is our earth science teacher.
Great, thank you. The next question is, does a student need to take the psychology class before being eligible for the AP psychology class?
Nope. That's an easy one.
Yes, and just as a reminder, in the course catalog that'll be out next week, in addition to descriptions of the classes, there's it lists any prerequisites, any criteria for each of those courses. The next question is, are the electives you mentioned through the presentation available to students during all 4 years, or are there certain ones for specific years? Do you want me to take it, Junko? Do you want to?
I can take it.
Okay.
So most of your electives are offered throughout 9th through 12th grade. But as we mentioned earlier tonight, some electives start from 10th grade. So we will share all that information with the students, and you're welcome to look at the slides again that we'll share after tonight. And we also will have that in the course catalog.
Great, thank you. The next question is AP music theory available prior to 11th grade? And then I'll let Ms. Robinson Chen answer that first, and then I can answer it, and then I have kind of a follow-up question to that.
It is not available to students prior to 11th grade. That was a decision made several years ago with the interest of limiting how many APs you can cram into a schedule. It's better for students that way.
Yes, and the second question I think was related to that. Is there a process for how requests are exceptions are related to AP courses are handled? So again, AP courses are honors level courses. Most do have a criteria attached to them, and that will be available in the course catalog. And again, thinking of balance for our students and making sure that there's a balance of rigor and also time in their day to do all the other focus on all of their classes is really important to us here at Edgemont. The next question, can a student reach multivariable calculus and math in senior year? Is that being considered?
That is currently not offered. We have not offered it since I've been at the school, which I think is my 17th year. So at this point, it has not been offered or is being offered.
Okay. The next question is, how can I contact my child's counselor? So you can reach out to us. We have a website that has all of our contact information. So if you go to departments on the EHS website, we definitely encourage you to check out the counseling department website. We have a lot of information there. Again, as Ms. Matano said, we will also have the course selection process there. So you can feel free to email us. You can call the office. Again, I work with students, the last name M through Z, and Ms. Matano works with students with the last, yeah, A through L. Next,
so just to make sure everyone understands that Ms. Moore and I are available. I think the best way to communicate with us is initially, please give us an email. And we will definitely email you back or call you back whenever we're not in meetings with students.
And the last question is actually also related to us. It's are the one-to-one meetings, there's some more pop. Are one-to-one meetings with the counselor mandatory each year to discuss their coursework in addition to college prep? The answer is yes. So every year we meet with the students to discuss their their course selections and do a check-in. Of course, we welcome students to come and we remind them that they can come to see us anytime. We also check in with students as needed through the year as well. And then as they get older, they will have additional meetings as they start exploring their post-secondary plans. Oh, there is one more question, and then I'm going to close things out. It's related to music theory. Is it being offered alternate years? So how will rising 9th graders take it in 12th grade?
So the current plan is for music theory to run next year. So you would only really be able to enroll in that class as an 11th grader if it is running every other year, and that is the current plan.
Thank you. And one more question popped up. I did close the question and answer now. So again, if you have any questions following this one answer, please reach out to any of us on this call. As Ms. Matano said, email is normally a great first way to reach us, any of us on this call. The question is, it sounds like students will have one free period every 8 days in the cycle. Are there any additional study hall or free periods in a typical week? So again, it really depends on how many electives your child chooses to take. As I mentioned earlier, some students know that a free would be beneficial in their day, in which case they might choose just one elective, one full year or 2 half-year electives and leave that other period as a free. Some students will choose to do that for half the year. So they might do a full year elective and only one semester long elective and have a free for half of the year. It really varies on the student. And again, we're always talking to students about balance. We do think that's important. And there's no concerns in terms of credits if a student chooses to have a free period. There's still more than enough credits towards graduation.
And when we meet with every single student in a few weeks, we definitely discuss that. Some students tell us, oh, you know, I'm going to be playing sports all 3 seasons. So I think I'm going to take one full year elective next year and have a little more free time during the school day. So that's something that please, you know, it's important for you at home to discuss with your children as well.
Great. With that, I want to thank you for joining us this evening. Again, if you're watching this later on, please feel free to reach out to any of us if you have any questions. We look forward to helping your child transition to our junior, senior, to the high school.